All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Grapevine Wellness Show. I see people logging in. Make yourselves comfortable. Thank you for coming. Make yourselves at home. I'm your host, Jolyn Armstrong. I'm so glad you're here today. For those of you who are new here, who maybe I haven't met yet, I'll tell you a little bit about me while we're all settling in. So about me, I help people navigate some of the most difficult times in their lives. That's kind of my jam, right? So none of us want to have our lives disrupted, but all of us at one point or another do. And so it's always easier and better when we have a guide with some tools on board and some education on board to get us through that. I can help folks get through those difficult times while avoiding emotional trauma, which is always the goal, right? So I specialize in trauma prevention, trauma recovery, and grief recovery. I use somatic embodiment exercises, modalities, as well as breath work and some cognitive modalities as well. So if you or a loved one are heading into a difficult time, or if you've come through a difficult time without support and are feeling some of the symptoms of maybe some emotional trauma, give me a call or email me, right? Let's get together, see if we're a good fit, see if I can help you through that. You can reach me at connect@grapevineinnerwellness.com. That's my email address. Or you can call or text 916-415-8619 to connect with me. Okay, so that's a little bit about me, a little bit about what I do. Let's talk a little bit about the show and why we're all here tonight. Our mission on this show is to bring meaningful conversations that offer hope and support and some practical tools for navigating life's challenges and some normal things about life too. Today's episode is one that holds really a special place in my heart. I will tell you, we are coming up on the 2-year anniversary of my father's passing, and he died on Mother's Day in 2 years ago. And there were some things that he had put into place, and there were a lot of things that he hadn't, where I wish I had had some support through that and some structure heading into that event that wasn't there. But so I love the guests that we have tonight who are going to talk to us about that very thing, right? Preparing to make kind of those events a little bit easier. So I'll introduce Nicole first. Nicole Harvey is an author and an attorney. She's licensed to practice in Nevada, state and federal courts since 2008, I think. Nicole practices in areas of estate planning, probate and trust administration, employment law, civil litigation, corporate general counsel, risk management, and regulatory compliance. My goodness.
Ooh,
Oh, that's a lot. Nicole has worked for law firms, in-house legal departments, and has her own solo private practice. I think Nicole received her bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Nevada, Reno, yay, and her law degree from Arizona State University, Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law. Also a proud native of Nevada. Congratulations, Nicole. That's amazing. Raising
well,
the
it's an accident
next,
of birth, but
yeah, right. Nicole is raising the next generation of kind, smart, and funny people near the shores of the Great Basin. Welcome, Nicole. I'm so glad you're here.
thank you very much.
Yeah, and Lisa's joining us. She's a financial advisor with Edward Jones, where she helps individuals and families organize, plan, and protect their wealth through personalized strategies. Lisa holds a master's in business administration and a bachelor's degree in information systems from the University of Nevada, Reno. Starting to sound familiar here, yeah? With more than 15 years of experience leading community-focused projects, Lisa is committed to helping clients feel informed, in control, and confident about their financial futures. A proud fourth generation Nevadan. Awesome. Lisa lives in Northern Nevada with her husband and their two children and enjoys being active in the local community and appreciates the chance to build lasting relationships with families and businesses she serves. Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so glad you guys are both here. And I am just really looking forward to tonight's discussion. And I love that we titled it after Nicole's book, which I have my copy of right here. Hope you die laughing.
Oh,
Yep.
yep. There we go.
I know, but I have my sticker too. So I
Oh, there you
got
go.
credit
Yeah.
for having the sticker as well.
You got the total package.
That's right. So I would love to just start. We'll get into the book a little bit too, but I'd love to start the show just um, before we dive into the content too much. If you can both share a little bit about kind of who you are, what I missed in your introductions, and the work that each of you do. Maybe Nicole first. Is that all right?
Sure. I'm not sure what you possibly could have missed.
Oh, that was yeah.
But
You've got quite the bio there, my friend.
right. I got to get in there and maybe clean that up a little. I'm not sure. But yeah, my practice is here in Sparks, Nevada. And I practice in estate planning, estate administration, and business general counsel. And when you talked about helping people through difficult times, I really resonate with that. I do that too. I'm not always doing that, but I would say sometimes with estate planning and certainly with estate administration, right? Estate administration means probate or administering a trust. And, so you've lost somebody, somebody's lost to us. And, and we're doing the work that has to be done, from there. That is a difficult time for a lot of people. So definitely do relate to that. I've been practicing for 17 years, like you said, since 2008. And as a young lawyer, I didn't really, appreciate that, but over time, I think I've come to realize sort of the privilege of my practice, that I have an opportunity to, I can't make it better, but I can make it less bad. So
There you
that really is kind of, I guess, the sum and substance of my practice and what we do.
Thanks, Nicole. How about you, Lisa? Hi there.
Thank you. And thank you for having us on the show today. So, I think you highlighted quite a bit about my background, fourth generation native Nevadan, and went to school up at UNR. I enjoyed teaching some classes in the undergrad and graduate level program at UNR. And in my role here at Edward Jones is I'm very passionate about people's finances and building relationships and walking through them in their journey of life through the ups and the downs. Of course, we would like everything to be really rosy and great, but we have the unfortunate things that come and how to walk with someone through those different scenarios in life and how we can then work through that together in that partnership. And so that's very important. And then, of course, outside of work, enjoying time with my husband and two kids and getting out in the community and all that it has to offer here in Reno. So thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's such a cool community here. I'm a newbie. I'm brand new here, just over 2 years here. So I'm just honored to be with two natives. It's awesome.
Well, after the show, we'll go shopping for your cowgirl boots and make sure
There
we
we
got some
go.
rodeo tickets because you can't miss the Reno rodeo.
There we are. It's coming. It's coming up.
Yep.
I know. I need to learn. Once I get those boots, I'll hit the line dancing classes. There's so
Oh, there
many
you go.
line dancing things here too. Speaking of that. So, the two of you have so much experience in what you're doing. You've been doing this for a minute, but I want to go back and look at what inspired each of you to start this work, right? Like, I'm always interested in that. How do we start here?
You want to go first, Lisa? Sure. So I have seen many struggle, I mean, in my family and my friends, and it relates to money, or it could be just communication about finances or their estate, leaving that legacy and understanding the options available. And it's really providing that education, right? I always say it's my tools in my toolbox that we can leverage. And so, an opportunity to work on building relationships with individuals and having that more intimate relationship with individuals and families and businesses and just walking with them is such an important and fulfilling times because we're with them during the great times or the hard times, right? Where it could be someone has passed away or they're having health issues and how to navigate that in that partnership together. And so that's very fulfilling to play a small part in someone's life in being that one-on-one person to assist them in navigating that.
Mm, nice. It's
Yeah,
personal. It's a personal side for Lisa. Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, Lisa has the best tagline when she introduces herself.
So I'm one-on-one versus 1-800. So
Right.
That's right. That's right.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that.
I don't know. For me, I think about my friends Bud and Ethel. In fact, that's who my book is dedicated to, for this reason. I when I think about like what made me interested in estate planning or like realize like the importance, right, of having a plan, was because of them. You know, they were my landlords when I was in college. I rented a unit of a triplex, and they lived in a unit and they were just these little old people, you know, and we kind of looked out for each other. And sometimes they'd invite me over for dinner, and you know, I'd help them put up the Christmas lights, and you know, and then Bud got sick, and he had cancer, and then you know, when he was passing away, it was a really, of course, probably the hardest thing Ethel ever went through, you know, and so she wasn't thinking very clearly, you know, and really there wasn't much she could do because there was no plan. And, you know, so Bud ended up with a lengthy hospital stay that was expensive, you know, and so here I am trying to help as much as I can in her grief and, you know, get through the funeral and all those things. And then this mountain of medical bills comes in. And then I learned all kinds of, I mean, this was, we were social, you know what I mean? Like I didn't like know them, you know, but this is where I find out like they were never legally married, you know, but they were together since like World War II ended, you know, so like I never would have guessed they weren't married. And so that you, as you know, that changes things, you know, in terms of like who owns what property. And so the whole thing was really, it was emotionally devastating, and then it was financially devastating for Ethel. And she ended up selling the triplex and, you know, moving in with a family member. And you know, that was the, so at that point in my life, I'm going to college and I'm working for attorneys, right? My first job was when I was 18, I got a job as a transcriptionist for an attorney, and I was a solo practitioner. And since then, I'd moved on to this job in-house with PetSmart as a like an in-house paralegal. And so I knew lawyers, right? But I never knew an estate planning lawyer. So I'm at work talking with the attorney that I work for, and I'm sharing the story with her. You know, it's just such a heartbreaking story. And like, isn't there something like who could help her? Because I really didn't know. And she says, oh, she needs probably, you know, an estate planner, but it's probably too late. You know, she's going to suffer some consequences. And so that was the first time I kind of really understood that. You see it in like wills and stuff in cartoons. You know what I mean? Like even kids have an understanding of what a will is. You know, how old are kids before they start asking their parents, "Am I going to inherit all your stuff?" You know, so like we conceive of it, but this was the first time that I really understood like what that meant, what it could have done, like the difference for Ethel. So I think, you know, as I went through law school, like you don't really know what you're going to end up doing. But my very first job was in this used to be this big firm in Reno called Jones Vargas. And the attorney that mentored me had said to me and her other mentees, every lawyer should know how to do a will, just like every mechanic knows how to do an oil change. You know, this is a very basic legal service, and you should be able to provide this service to anyone who needs it. You know, and I had done an internship in law school with an estate planning firm and kind of saw the operation of it, you know, and how that goes or how it can go. And so by the, you know, kind of kind of, I guess, by happenstance, I ended up getting this great, footing in estate planning law. And I've just always kept it as a part of my practice. It's such a fun way to work with people.
Mm.
Most people are coming to me because something bad happened, you know, but if it's an estate plan, like maybe not. Maybe we can just have a really nice interaction, and build some trust. And, I can become their lawyer whenever they have any legal questions. And that's just delightful, and so it's nice to have that, I think, as a practice area for that reason too.
Oh, that's good. Well, I love hearing that it could be a good experience because it feels like so many people like don't like I don't want to look at it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Why
Yeah.
why do
Just about
we
everyone.
keep yeah, what is
Yeah.
that about us? Why do we put that planning off that's so important?
Because I think it mentally hurts. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
you talk about avoiding emotional trauma. I'm not sure that it rises to the level of being traumatic, but I think it's impossible for I mean, my mind can barely understand the death of a loved one.
Mm,
I can't conceive of my own death. You know what I mean? Like, even when I think about it, I imagine myself still like watching my family participating in some way, like knowing what's going on. I can't imagine a time that I don't know what's going on,
mhm.
you know? I think it's our humanness,
Yeah.
it's the hardest thing to understand.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. That's a great point. Um, and we just don't want to. Right? I don't want to deal with this.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so Lisa, it seems like financial stability and some of the things around that could bring some peace of mind, even in these times of, I don't want to kind of
Mhm.
settings, right? Um, is that has that been your experience when we've got some stability here, we can chill out? Is that what you see in your clients?
Absolutely. Well, talking about money is different for anyone, right? And talking about the values, what they've learned from maybe their parents or a family or a friend, and how you talk to others about that. And some money could be very dirty or it could be stressful, right? Do I have enough? Am I able to do the things that want to do really, and leaving the legacy that I would like to do. And so to really talk about how to put yourself in control of your finances and the tools available to help navigate that journey, and to leverage professionals to understand what is available in those tools and those approaches to assist you and walk with you in those areas where you are today, and really start to plan out where you would like to dream of that future. And that's really exciting. I know it's hard to take that first step, and it could be for a variety of reasons, but really to take that step forward and have those conversations of, and not be feeling like this judgment or the weight, because it could be on your finances. Oh my goodness, how do I get out of this?
Yeah.
How can we break it down into smaller pieces? And so all of those are great things. I like to take those and break it down to smaller pieces and really bite size. Let's work on that one. That's a goal. Here's our objectives, right? And so I think that's very helpful, instead of just sensing the big weight on your shoulders of where you are, and that you're working with or talking to family or friends, professionals on navigating that. So you're not in it by yourself. You're in it with that partnership or the relationship.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Of course, that's going to alleviate some of the stress, some of the fears and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. Um, so let's look at this. Let's take a look at this book we have here with the title that I absolutely love, right? Uh, I hope you die laughing. A beginner's guide to estate planning. Nicole, talk to us about this title. This, tell us.
I when I wrote the first edition 10 years ago, um, I had kind of like written out the manuscript of it, and the title was really a secondary. I was like, oh crap, I got to come up with a title. I remember coming up with it on the way into work. I don't know. I hope you die laughing. But you know what I do, and I think that really kind of shows off not what the book is about, but what how the book works, right? Like I'll say like kind of like Lisa said, this is hard stuff, right? And it's funny because it takes something to make somebody finally do it, right? Like it's really rare that somebody wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to finally just do it, right? It's because you're going to take a long trip. It's because you're dealing with your parents' stuff and it's made you realize you need to do something for yourself. It's usually something is happening that makes you realize I should have something in place, right? So something has pushed you, right, to get there in the first place. So once you're there, I early on I would have clients that could start this process, and then when we would sit down and review like the actual document, if we're reading the words on the page, they would disengage. Oh my God, like that just got too real, right? Like I can't do this. So, it took some time to figure out like how can I help? Like how can I remove this obstacle? And I think for me, it's just humor is how I get through hard stuff. I laugh at stuff, When we laugh at things, they become smaller. They don't matter as much. And of course, this is a real talk about a gentle audience, right? Like you can't laugh about everything. You can't tell every dead joke you ever heard about zombies or whatever, like you got to have some modicum of decorum. Um, but it works,
Yeah.
if you can help people sort of see the preposterousness of it, or even little puns, just to get through it, um, that makes a huge difference. And I think not just, in the process of looking at the documents, but even using humor to build that relationship. I think for me, it comes pretty naturally, but I think it helps people when we can laugh together, you can put your guards down together. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? And it becomes, I think, a little bit easier to trust each other. Or at least, see me as human. I think that's another obstacle. People tend to be kind of afraid of lawyers, and I don't blame them. I've met some of them. You know? And you see movies, right? And you think about like, oh my God, I don't want to sit down with a lawyer. What if it bites me, right?
Yeah.
And so to kind of like dispel that and just kind of show my own humanness, right? But the book definitely leans into that. As you flip through it, you find, quips and quotes and jokes and, just a little sugar to help the medicine go down.
I noticed that. Yeah, like it's clear that this comes naturally to you. I put my little sticker in here, chapter 8, not quite dead yet. Like that's your title of chapter 8, talking about, and I start reading it like, what could she be meaning by that? It's things that become invalid, right, upon your death, like not quite dead yet, but the last
Your
thing,
powers
right.
of attorney, right?
Yeah, like
Yeah, and that's a little throwback to Monty Python, the parrot sketch. He's not quite dead yet, right? So I'm on a ventilator, right? Or I'm real sick, or I'm
that's funny.
probably not coming back. That's when these powers of attorney really matter.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good. The book is an easy, fun read for all of those reasons. So, and it's kind of, it highlights to me the importance of finding a way to address these things before, like you mentioned about the your landlords, right? Before it's too late, before
Right.
things become much more difficult and or expensive, right? And Lisa, I think for you from a financial perspective, some of these benefits of having a plan in place or something in place ahead of time. Let's talk about that a little bit, and how your clients are benefiting from not waiting till it's too late. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's great to have those conversations now and be proactive and really understand what they would like to do, and then pair with the state side for the protection and legalizing that piece. But on the financial side, is talking through those strategies. And we're focused more on the long term financial objectives. And it could be some short term where they're focused on their children, or it could be for retirement, but also to talk about what is occurring right now and in the future for the what ifs, and then planning for that. So it's important to talk about it now, be proactive. And again, many will say the shoulda, woulda, coulda, but now is a good time, and it's healthy to have that conversation and talk about it often so that we can get the correct tools associated so we're able to navigate that moving forward. So I think knowing that this is an opportunity and to be proactive about it is better versus it didn't happen. And then if we're proactive, that's really your gift to your loved ones and the ones that are left behind, your family, your friends, or the charities, whomever that might mean something to the individuals to help it be organized to that transition.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Part of my when I think about this, I think, yeah, I don't want my kids to go through what I went through, right? And so that's a motivator for
Absolutely.
sure. But I think
Yeah.
back to the conversations that my family has had in the past, trying to get our parents to put a plan in place, right? There was one time my sister, we would rotate Christmases at our each of our houses, right? And it was my sister's turn to host Christmas, and she made us sit down in her home and have this conversation about mom and dad need a will. And it didn't go over great in that setting, right? I'm not sure why. Um, but I'm wondering if let's maybe talk about some ways that we can start those conversations, maybe not at a holiday celebration, but what are some good ways to maybe dive into that for those of us that haven't found a good strategy yet?
Yeah, well, I've never advocated that the book should be a stocking stuffer. Okay, let it be
Okay,
known.
yes.
Let it be known,
Right.
right? There's a time and a place, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm going to say I think the book is a nice way to broach it in the right setting, right? Because I think the title can be kind of shocking if you're not prepared for it.
Right.
Uh, but sure, I think that's, one way is to like, hey, look, someone made a joke book out of this. Can you believe it? And I mean, you're gonna look at it because that's a
Of course.
curiosity,
Mhm.
right?
I
And
mean,
so
it's
maybe
a
that's one
cool
way.
cover too. I mean, it's not
Oh,
bad. It's not bad.
that's Anthony Gregg. That man's an artist. But I think too, like, it's all about 90% of your success is all about your approach, right? So it is about knowing the right time, and it is about, you got to have that level of trust. Sometimes this is a one-to-one conversation with people. Sometimes it's a group conversation. Really depends on your family's dynamics.
Mhm.
Um, but it's tough, like when I get these calls pretty regularly. It's the child or a sibling group, and they say, "Hey, we're calling you because our parents need a will. Can we hire you to do that?" Well, sure, but you can't write it, like mom and dad have to write it. And I can't make them come in if they don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's only so much you can do to kind of encourage people and help them understand the importance. I mean, there's plenty of really frightening stories with horrible outcomes. There's no shortage of like reasons why you should do this.
Yeah.
But I think it really does. You almost have to, have a level of trust with somebody to do this. And really, the first chapter of the book talks about that. This book isn't telling you how to prepare your estate plan. It's telling you why you need a lawyer to help you, how to shop for a lawyer, what questions you should ask them, and what you should look for. And it really tells you don't hire someone unless you feel really good about working with them. Because let's be real, just like with Lisa, this person's got to get in your pocket and learn about your family dynamics. Like, I'm going to find out who's your favorite kid and how much money you have in the next hour.
Yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
like, you don't want to work with
Intuitive.
just anybody, so shop it out, right? But a lot of people don't know that, right? The only time they've dealt with lawyers is in really bad situations, where they've had really bad experiences, and it's kind of a scary idea,
Mhm.
So, I don't know. I felt like that was missing from the market. The first two editions I did, I kind of wrote for you to come and see me, right? It was about what we're going to talk about and how this is going to work, and very much suited to like my practice in my office. In this edition, I took this completely different approach of like realizing there's tons of websites about estate planning and lawyers talking about you need this trust or that, but there's not a lot of people telling you how to shop for a lawyer. And why would I need a lawyer if I can do will and trust for 395? And I can even pay an extra $50 or something and get a lawyer for a little while. Why is that any different? And so this kind of like breaks that down. It's not a bad thing to use will and trust, just understand what you're buying. For a little bit more, you can work with a human being who's got some experience and seen some things and can like understand your situation if you can open up and be forthcoming about your situation and really, tailor a plan to you. Like a great suit, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Yeah. You want me to tailor a suit for you or you want something off the rack at like Burlington? Yeah, whatever you want.
That's great. That's great. So would you say the first kind of steps in estate planning might be finding the right fit, the right attorney to help you?
Oh, I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. And that can start with a good financial planner or an advisor, or
Mhm.
like Lisa. I'll tell you what, Lisa's clients are wonderful to work with because they come so educated. They understand their financial situation, they have confidence in their understanding, and they've got a clue about what we're going to do. You know, a great partner like Lisa can definitely, I think, start developing that trust and help a person realize like I can count on professionals to help me with this. But yeah, I think whether it's a CPA or a lawyer or an advisor, like I think as soon as you can trust somebody to help you with it, you're well on your way.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, let's look at that then from your point of view, strategizing a financial situation, I guess. What are the most important things that people should have in place to protect their loved ones? Like, yeah, maybe start there.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely having that estate strategy. And I think a lot of people with the stress is not having control over what's going to happen or what we're trying to do associated with that. And for some, they might think about, well, I don't need to do this. I have time. It's not something right now that I need to slate. And so it's not something, hey, once I retire or once I hit this particular milestone, to really build to what Nicole's talking about is that relationship and building trust with the individuals and know that you're in a circle of professionals that have a best interest in what you're trying to do and then help navigate that. And we all have things that occur that kind of take us off track of the path. And how do we navigate to get back on path so we can continue to work towards that? And so I think really looking at the tools that are available and taking advantage of learning about those and how to bring that together to tailor it to the needs of the individual or those families.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. I don't know. I'm getting a sense that it is really important to when you're looking for a professional to help you, like somebody in my seat who knows nothing about either one of your worlds, right? Except the negative experience I had through my father's his whole illness and passing. But um it seems like finding somebody who will actually care about what you're needing, wanting, what you're going through, what you're facing is maybe one of the most, anyway, from my perspective, one of the most important things, right? Like you
Oh
were
yeah.
saying, yeah, like no, maybe I don't want just a suit off the rack, right?
Right.
So
Right. Like I can tell you at Nevada Council, one of our brand pillars is compassion.
yeah.
And it's because, we have to meet people where they are.
Mhm.
They're often not in a great place. Sometimes that big thing that brings you in is a diagnosis. Sometimes estate planning isn't, sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
So, it is important. I think it's important to me that everyone that works with us brings their whole self to work because that's what our clients need, and we have to honor their grief, and we have to honor their circumstances. And I think I mean, I don't know any other authentic way to build trust. You can't build trust inauthentically.
Right.
You know what I mean? And we have better relationships and better outcomes when our clients can trust us.
Yeah.
So I do think that's important. And I'm not the only lawyer that thinks that way. There's lots of good lawyers out there. It just takes a little bit of work, a couple of tips, to help you kind of sort out down to who's the right fit for you. Have a couple of consultations, interview a couple. I call it the dance recital. Let's see who's hitting their marks, and pick the one you like,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, let's talk about mistakes. How about that? What are some of the biggest mistakes?
Like mine? Oh, let me
Let's
tell
stay
you.
away from the three of us. Let's not. No, but let's talk about mistakes when it comes to estate planning or setting up, financial strategies. Like, what are some of the mistakes that you both have seen that maybe we can help our listeners or watchers avoid? Yeah.
Yeah, one thing that I think of is procrastination, right? Oh, we can put it off tomorrow, and an event happens, and
Right.
that might trigger that. So that's one area, but I also think about people feel like, oh, I can do it myself or Google it or whatever. And you don't have to go at it alone, right? There are people to partner with that's going to be a good fit for individuals. I always think about on the financial side more on accounts, right? And beneficiaries, and to make sure we understand who are those individuals that are important to you and make sure they're updated across the board, but to also have that conversation about the financial state where they are, and then to be able to talk through that. Well, folks are hopefully healthy at this particular stage, so you're preparing. It's that proactiveness and to organize that. But those are some mistakes that I see that, oh, we can put it off, or I can do it alone, or some areas I don't need someone else to partner with. And really, let's just be open and be able to talk and learn from others so we can pair that together to get the best interest for our individuals and our family, our loved ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
agree. I agree with you, Lisa. Um, Not having a plan, and of course that I've seen that have some really devastating effects, right? The parent who has an adult disabled child, and they don't have a source of income or support anymore, right? Or even worse, the child does inherit something, right? And now they're not eligible for the benefits that they've been getting that support their needs. And now, they don't have Medicaid coverage, so you got to spend down what you just inherited so that we can get back to covering you. And how are they supposed to navigate that? How are they supposed to figure out what supports to use their money to buy? It can lead to some really heartbreaking situations. That's just sort of one scenario. In terms of, I'll do it myself. I have a probate right now. Um, and it's without getting, too complex into trust strategies. This person downloaded two templates, thinking for some reason that they needed to complete both templates, and they did. They filled in the blanks. They called a notary over. They signed it. They had it notarized. I mean, the notarization was fine. The problem was they signed two wills on the same day that had different distributions, but then there was also a trust that had a distribution that matched one of the wills.
Uh-oh.
So,
Uh-oh.
right? So my executors are like, they come to me saying like, what the heck are we supposed to do? And I'm like, well, we're gonna file a probate petition. We're gonna see what the court thinks about these two wills, and see if we can get an answer. And everybody agrees this is what should happen, so we'll document that, and it'll probably be fine. But if she wanted to avoid probate, it didn't work. We still have to do this. We got to go through the process, and it takes time and it takes a little money. So. It's unfortunate. Well-meaning people, educated, well-meaning people, pull down a form. It looks simple enough. I mean, if I'm filing a 1040, I can figure that out, right? Like you can use your skills to work in something that isn't your everyday. But I think I think those forms are sometimes deceptively simple, right? And then you've got like the step up from that, which is the like the website willandtrust.com, or there's a few that you fill in like fields and it'll generate a document. Maybe you pay a little more to talk to a real lawyer, and that might be fine. Um, but you got a lawyer that may or may not be licensed in your jurisdiction, so they may not be able to tell you, the nuances. They're not. Here's the thing. If you're probating in a jurisdiction, you're handling probates, right? And you're administering estates, then you're seeing week by week how the law works, how the law grinds against the wishes of people in their wills, right? And that makes you sharper as a drafter and as a planner. As you listen to people and what their circumstances are, you can really dial that in to exactly what they need. But somebody on a hotline who isn't doing that, isn't even maybe licensed in your state, it just isn't going to have that insight, right? So maybe it'll work out just fine. Maybe it doesn't matter, right? But the other thing I see, and this happens pretty regularly, is we finish the estate plan, right? Mom and dad have finally done it. They're retired, and that's what made them think they should do it. And as we're signing, they say, you know what? If it's okay, we would love, when our adult kids are visiting, we'd love to bring them by to meet you, just so they know who you are, and they know they can call you. They know who they're. Of course, yes, please. This is how you schedule. Please, I'd love to meet them. And now there's continuity in the family. And I'll tell you, 17 years in, like I've seen some generations change, and what an honor it is to be the person, that is kind of that bridge between the way the world used to be and how it is now, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's kind of you kind of make these mistakes, depending on how much you're willing to put into it. But again, I think, there's a lot of intimidation around it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so a couple things just come up for me. One, I don't think I'm smart enough to be in this conversation. Like, I don't
Stop it.
know. Some of those things I think, okay, I just gotta hire someone. And I think I may need to bring in some of those forms that I downloaded and just filled the blanks in and maybe have them reviewed for accuracy and completeness.
Sure, yeah,
Eventually,
at least.
eventually. Oh no. I did have chat help me. Okay, I just have to tell you, ask you both actually, how, how often are you getting like chat said kind of conversations happening in your offices, right?
Oh, are we
Because
talking about my robot friend? Chat?
robot, I don't know about a robot, but maybe
Oh,
our AI
yeah.
friends, yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know. He makes me think of the Jetsons. That's my robot friend, you
Yes,
know.
yes, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think I mean, I love it for what it does well, It does some things well. It does not do other things well. It doesn't analyze well. It doesn't research great.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if like non-lawyers see these stories, but I mean, there's been a few news stories about lawyers using Chat GPT to write a brief, and they don't review it. They just file it the way it came out of Chat GPT. And
Uh-oh.
it turns out the cases that Chat GPT was citing are completely made up. They don't even exist.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Oh
right, the
no.
lawyers are like losing their licenses, as they should, for not reviewing what they're filing with the court. So I don't know. I don't think Chat GPT is a lawyer, just like I wouldn't trust it to handle a surgery. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you need a really kind of abstract level of thinking and to draw on personal experience. It's not just what's on Google. I mean, that's not what
Right.
I'm using to work with you and prepare and help you put this plan together. You don't leave and I'm just Googling it all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get that from Chat GPT.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
How about you, Lisa? Are folks coming in saying, well, Chat told me this about my money and I trust that? Like, I don't know.
yeah.
You have a lot of people that will bring in research from different sources and
Yeah.
really to talk through what this research is about, but then to kind of break down the why behind it, right? And understand why they're researching that, but then to get the picture of the personal side, right? So we're not just computers, we're talking about people, loved ones, important individuals in someone's life. And so to be able to then get to know those loved ones and be able to tailor those strategies to meet the needs. So it's not just robotics just saying, here's 1 + 1 = 2, spit it out, and that's that. It's complexities add to families, right, and individuals, and understanding those and working through those. That's the piece and that personal touch that I think is very important as part of those interactions.
Yeah, yeah. Lisa is so diplomatic. But
I
yes,
know.
she really is. I love that about you, Lisa. But yeah, yeah, so chat's not it. I think that's what we're hearing, and you can maybe that may be a place to start, but let's add that human analytic element before we end it, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
The human
Yeah.
factor, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to brainstorm like fun distributions or something, like get ChatGPT involved. That thing can brainstorm for days, you know.
Right. All right. All right. So let's look at let's give a little bit of advice here on for folks who maybe, we don't want to think about this yet. We don't want to think about potential hardships. We've talked about, some things that have happened and can happen if we don't do that. But maybe we can give just a little bit of advice for those of us who still feel like I'm still avoiding, even after what we've heard. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I got a story for this.
Ooh, of course you do.
Of course I do. Okay, so this was a while ago, probably 12 years ago. We had this client, we'd done some work with her, not estate plans,
Mhm.
or anything, but we did some other kinds of work for her. So she calls us one night at like 4:30. It's, almost time to close, and she's in tears. She's a mess. And secretary puts her right through. She says, "My father's on his deathbed." And she says, "Nicole, he's demanding that, or he says he's never done a will and he's really upset about it." And I said, "Oh, geez, well, what can we do to help?" She says, "Well, I'm not sure. He doesn't need a will. He's been sick for a long time. They had to sell their home. They've had to sell everything they have. He doesn't even have a car." She says they're living in a borrowed mobile home. He's got a checking account in my mom's joint, and that's all he's got. There's just no reason for him to have to do a will, but he's really upset about it." I said, "Okay, what does he want his will to say?" And so she tells me, and I mean, like, what are we gonna do, right? So I grab my secretary, we grab a printer and a laptop, and we jump in the car and we head out to their house where he is. And as soon as we get there, they usher us in. He's, there on his deathbed with his friends and family. And I say, "Okay, Dad, here's the lawyer." And I say, "All right, this is what we have in your will. Is this what you want to say?" "Yeah, I want it all to go to my wife and my daughter. I did it all for them." "Okay." So we put it in there and we print it out and we have them sign it, we witness it, we notarize it, we do all of that, right? And we grab our stuff and we leave. We're not even back to the office, which is 20 minutes away, when his daughter calls and says he passed away and he was so at peace once he knew that he had documented that he had said it for the whole world. "I don't have a damn thing, but I did it all for the two of you." And that was what he needed to do. That was the legacy that he needed to leave behind. um, and I think about that story a lot, because there will come this unavoidable inevitable moment, and in that moment I am 100% sure that I will be at peace knowing that it's taken care of, right, and that I've documented that for the people I love. And I think that I would probably not be so comfortable if I had just left it out in the wind, you know? Um, so like, I mean, it is a gift to your loved ones. It's a gift to yourself, it's a gift to the world, to document like what was important to you, and, who do you want to benefit from your life's work? That one's not funny. That one pulls at the heartstrings. That was a tough experience, but what an awesome way to realize like what I'm doing is so much more than a financial transaction.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Absolutely. That you're walking with the individuals, right? And you're not in this by yourself, right?
right, right.
And the other I would say is just like don't fear the judgment, right? It could be that ninth hour in this scenario in your story, Nicole, but just to be able to say, hey, I want to get this organized so that your gift to your loved ones, that I took the time, it's hard-earned dollars. And that's the gift that I want to leave, knowing that my affairs were taken into account.
Yeah,
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 that's
for
beautiful.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think in that way, I think it is wellness. You know,
Mhm.
I mean, I realized early on that when people have a legal problem, like that becomes a wellness issue. Northern Nevada Hopes, who's a great nonprofit here in town, they preach this too. You know, that having, legal chaos, having to deal with courts, whether it's a divorce or a criminal thing or, something else, that becomes a wellness issue very quickly. That is an incredible kind of stress, and so it is with this aspect of your legal life. And so I think it is a part of mental wellness. Like every one of us walks around and something will happen that will make you think, what if something happened to me? Right? It might be a conversation with someone. You might be thinking about your kids. You might be thinking, right? But I probably think this once a day, or a couple times a day. Like, what if something happened to me, right? But when I know I've sat down and documented this, I have life insurance, I have a plan, I know my family's going to be financially okay. The kids are all going to be able to finish college. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be okay financially, right? And that's going to give my family breathing room to grieve me. Like I can dismiss that thought. I don't have to, go down the obsessive trail of and awfulizing, right? Because that's always what happens when we can't answer a question. We start awfulizing it, right?
I love that
Um,
term.
what, yeah, what if something happened to me? Oh my
Mhm.
God, the world's gonna fall apart, right? But just knowing you've done this, you can just immediately dismiss that thought, and it's gonna be okay. They're gonna be okay.
That is a
They're gonna miss me.
beautiful, yeah, that's a
Yeah,
beautiful
Mhm.
mindset shift there, right?
yeah,
Let's talk about those a little bit, right? That's one. I don't have to, I use the word catastrophize, but I love awfulize. I might steal that from you, Nicole,
please
right?
do. Yeah,
I don't have
yeah,
to do that anymore if I just
yeah,
face it this once in a less stressful setting,
yeah.
right? What else have helped your clients in the past to finally just say yes, okay, right? Any other mindset shifts we can think of? To make this kind of this step more approachable.
One of our mutual friends, Matt, just mentioned this to me today. He said you can pay the flat fee or the fat fee. And he says the fat fee is more than money. It's always more than money.
Mm,
And I think that too can be compelling, right? I don't want to sit down and pay a lawyer. All right, well, let's look at it, right? If you're gonna probate your property, most houses are worth 500,000 here in our area. That's the average price of a home, right? So you own a home, you got 500,000. So maybe you've got a $750,000 estate or something like that. And we've got to go to probate. That could be, I don't know, 5 to 10% of the value of your estate is going to go to the costs and the expenses and all that to like go through a prolonged probate administration, right? If you set up a trust or have any kind of probate avoidance plan, which doesn't necessarily require a trust, right? But if you've got a probate avoidance plan, you can minimize that expense down to like 2%, 3%, right? And on an estate that size, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, pay me nothing now. And when we probate your estate, we might make 75, $8,000 on it, right? But if you just come in right now, you can pay me the flat fee, 2,500, 3,500, depending on what we're doing, right? Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But still, that's always going to be cheaper than, you know, suffering the financial consequences of not having a plan or having a bad plan.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So in a minute, I'm going to open us up for Q&A. Those who have been um, watching this conversation this evening or listening to it, we do have one question in chat, and I've got a couple of more for you. But yeah, if you're watching this and you haven't put a question in yet, please go ahead and do that, not in chat, actually in the Q&A box, and we'll make sure that get those questions answered. But in the meantime, I'll just ask you one quick question too, or maybe two or three, right? If someone who's listening hasn't started planning yet, what's one small action I always encourage my clients just one little thing, take one step. What would each of you suggest?
You go first, Lisa.
Lisa.
So for me, what I always like to talk about is I give the reference of building a house. And so the first is the foundation. And one thing is creating a budget and then looking at the actuals after the end of the month, for example, or the end of a pay period, and then talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what am I going to do differently, and then start another budget. Let's continue to work through that each pay period, each month, each quarter, learn from that. It's a great communication tool for you as an individual, or if you're married, your family, passing that down to multiple generations. So build a strong foundation around your budget, because that can lead to other things such as reaching towards your goals and then capturing that and saying, here's my progress that I've made towards that, and what am I going to do differently? So that's building the foundation of your house, a strong budget, and learn from it. You're not going to do a budget perfect the first time. You're going to learn from it, but it's to keep and continue to work towards that budget. And that is going to set you in a good foundation for you as an individual and your family for the future.
Gotcha. Okay, stop ignoring the budget. Don't just spend and hope for the best, I think is what I got from Lisa. Yeah.
Good advice. I mean,
Right.
right? Um, I
Yeah.
don't know. I would say if you're going to start, uh, maybe the first action item might be to, get on the Google machine and look up
Mhm.
attorneys in your area
Yeah.
and pick three. Just pick three, put them on a list. And that can be step one, right? And then tomorrow you can call each one on the list and see, how much do they charge for a consultation? Do they charge at all? How soon can they get me in? And have your beauty pageant, right? Let's see,
There we
who
go.
I jive with and who I like. I mean, you might call a place and decide you don't like the way they answer the phone. That's okay. You're hiring the lawyer, you know?
Next. Yeah.
So, maybe you have someone in your religious community that you trust that is an attorney. Maybe that's a great person to work with, right? It's all about finding that person you're comfortable with,
Gotcha.
But so
Yeah.
step one, maybe just come up with a list of three if you're not sure who, and step two, you can start whittling it down.
Okay. All right. Well, that kind of maybe leads us into the question from our guest here. Zandra says, "I'm here because my husband just received a cancer diagnosis. We do have a financial planner. He's in California, but we don't have a trust. He, meaning her husband, obviously can't go from office to office to have a consultation. So, what would you recommend we do?"
Oh, that is a great question.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients, it's not so easy to just come to my office, medical reasons and disability reasons and all kinds of reasons. We offer, as many lawyers do, we offer Zoom consultations, right? Just like this. We can hop on a Zoom call, get to know each other a little bit. It's not the same, right? But it gives us a chance to talk, and in a Zoom consult, you can ask questions like, how long does this usually take? What's my part of the process? What should I expect along the way? You can, kind of get answers to all those questions, and you can size up the person you're working with. You might decide you really like this person, or you might decide you can't possibly listen to this person's voice anymore, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of reasons. I hear
Mhm.
from people, they say, "Oh, we're so glad we found you. We wanted to work with an attorney who is a woman." Oh, okay, right. Doesn't matter to me, but
Yeah.
when I go looking for a doctor, I prefer a woman. So, it matters to some people, and that's okay. I know I'm not the lawyer for everybody, but I know that there's a lawyer out there for you. So when you do call places, tell them that. I'll also say it's really not uncommon in my field. It's not uncommon at all to make house calls, right? So when we have clients that can't come to our office, we work out some scheduling. We just kind of have to block it out different because we got to have time to travel there and travel back. But not uncommon to do that at all.
Oh, that's really okay. That is really good to know. That's really
Yeah.
good to know. From this question, Lisa, I have a question for you. If there's a couple here who lives in Nevada, they're financial advisors in California, are there any issues with that that you can see? I don't know. I haven't asked chat that question yet, so.
No, great question. So it's important to make sure that your financial advisor, they're licensed in that state to practice. And so if the question was asking for myself, I am licensed in California and Nevada. I have a couple other states, but it's just important to make sure that we know where the person resides and if that is a state that we service.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And if a person, because we're right on the California border, if we are, someone who straddles the border, works one side, lives the other, that kind of a thing, that may be why I'm guessing you're licensed in more than one place for situations like that.
Absolutely. And because we are close to California, and, regardless of if they're in Reno or California or other places similar to Nicole, to the opportunity to have those Zoom conversations and to be able to bridge that gap in other states. But that's where loved ones, you can have loved ones in California, Nevada, maybe other states, and to have that continuity. Some people do like to have the whole family falling under a similar professional. And so that's another opportunity to look at, but just to make sure that they are practicing in those particular states or a great referral or introduction to someone that could help service them.
Great. Great, great, great. Good to know. Good to know. Okay. So, the two of you, I'm so glad we've had this conversation. Before we wrap up, we do another question here. I'm going to need some contact information, right? So
Sure.
and I will put this in the show notes as well, but it's good to just say this verbally. Maybe Nicole, you can go first, and then Lisa, how can people learn more about your work, get started planning with you? How can they reach you?
Sure. So you can find us online at nevadacounsel.com. That's NEVADACOUNSEL.com. You can find us on all the socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Nextdoor. You can call us 775-832-3012. And you can schedule by calling, you can schedule through the website. We've got a few ways we take consultations. If you're ready to get started and you know it's time to do this, you can schedule the full consultation for $200. That's a 1 hour consultation. We also offer a free quick answer session for when people have a quick question. You can schedule a 15-minute call, and we can talk about whatever it is that your question encompasses.
Great. I'm going to schedule like 15 quick question calls with Nicole next week. I'm just kidding. Just quick, just real quick.
They're all quick, I promise.
That's a phone a friend, right? So,
Hilarious. I,
so.
I would suggest let's not do that actually, but okay. Lisa, how can folks find you, my friend?
Well, thank you. So you're welcome to go to edwardjones.com and you can find my profile if you search under Lisa Schober. That's like you're going to a show and you get cold, but it's Schober, Schob as in boy, ER, and first name Lisa, Lisa. And I'm on LinkedIn also as another opportunity. And my office is in South Reno. But of course, I do service some other states. So Zoom is an opportunity, but to definitely contact our office. And I also have a complimentary consultation because that's a good opportunity to make sure it's a good fit, personalities, if that's something that I can help service and provide those opportunities for. And so it's just a great starting point. And if it works out, then our continued relationship long term.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, thank you both so much. I want to give last word to both of you before we wrap up. What's one final thought that you'd like to leave our audience with about preparing for their future with less stress, right? And more peace of mind. Final thoughts?
So, something that I always like to think about is really that having clarity and having goals regarding where you are and talking about where you're going, that's the exciting, the dream side of things. And that can help reduce stress and organize things as your gift for your loved ones. I think those would be my parting words that I would suggest.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I want people to know that this doesn't have to be scary and it doesn't have to be bad. And when you're working with people you like, it can actually be fun and rewarding. So yeah, I hope, if nothing else, I really hope to inspire more people to just overcome the obstacle of, putting it off, and just call someone and get started.
Pick up the phone. That's all.
That's right.
All right. Well, thank you, Lisa and Nicole. I appreciate you both so much for just having this conversation with me, for showing up tonight. I know so many people, my own family included, we struggle with these topics. But the way you both approach them is just this warmth and humor, and it just makes all the difference. And so I appreciate you both. And for those listening, if you've been putting off estate planning, financial planning, please take this as your sign to start now, right? Even small steps can make a big impact. And again, thank you both for being here. I appreciate you.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you so much.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Bye.